My more recent one is about the sexual market, how laws concerning the age of consent actually act as an economic subsidy on female sexual market value. How if females from like 15 to 18, we're not talking about children here, little prepubescence, that's what child means to me. And because these females are kept off the market, it has a cascading effect through the entire age group, where each female above that age of consent is going to feel as though she has the value of someone 3 to 4 years younger and act accordingly.
So do you think that girls that age should be having sex, or do you think they should wait till they're older or saving themselves?
Well, I understand biologically there's certain problems of having children too early after menstruation, but 18 is kind of ridiculous because traditionally people were usually having kids by 15 or 16. And if you think about it, 2 years doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you take that across an entire population and then take the percentage of people who are going to get genetic diseases or whatever because people are waiting longer, that's going to have a significant impact relative to a society where people are getting started younger.
But women are relatively fertile from like 18 to 25, or even 25 to 30. But it is true a lot of women are waiting till their 30s to have kids. But you tie in this issue with fertility.
Yes, I do. I tied in with fertility because if this lady is at 30 and she still has the sexual market value of someone who's a few years younger, then men who are just getting established, like age 35 to 40, are going to have trouble finding someone they can have kids with a low probability of having ailments such as Down syndrome.
So you start off, you talk about this old song from, I think it's from the 50s or maybe early 60s. Yes. She's 16, she's beautiful, she's mine. So this guy, the singer is Johnny Burnett, and he's supposedly a pedophile.
The pedophile was my artistic license.
Yeah.
As a kid, I would hear that song on oldies stations, and obviously it made perfect sense to people back then that a 16-year-old was desirable and not a child, so I used that little anecdote
I'm curious. I'm going to look up
set the tone. And maybe
Johnny Burnett. I'm curious what age he was when he did that song. Let me see. Let's see. He was born in 1934. I'm looking up on Wikipedia. So let's see when that song was written. He was at least. He was. He was well into his 20s. So. Yeah, you're saying today, and the irony is if you listen to modern music, if you listen to like rap music, today it's so degenerate and graphic, but it's kind of funny how a song that's kind of innocent.
Their whole thrill value is flouting the rules, flouting the law, and I don't think Johnny Burnett was singing a song about flouting the rules of the law. He was just singing a song about young romance.
Okay, so these kind of laws they got, you talk about how they got started in the Victorian era, and what happened is it was...
That's correct.
Yeah, to protect the economic valuable virginity of unmarried young women, and you said that the rich, wealthier men would monopolize the young women of the working class, and that's how it got started.
Well, in the industrialized period, people are moving into the cities from all these farms. The urban population is exploding at this point, and these working class men have direct competition from the rich that they didn't have before, and those elevated age of consent laws were in part to their reaction in order to protect what they saw as their right.
So back then virginity was a prerequisite for marriage in a lot of cases. It wasn't always the case, but it was encouraged.
But it was encouraged, prerequisite in a lot of cases, and much more necessary, much more highly desired than now. So
they said 16 was, I think, the age that they decided on in the Victorian England, and it still is in England to this day. You personally think that's a reasonable age?
It's definitely more reasonable than the 18 limit, but I think, the absolute limit ought to be where, I mean, this person is doing a child. I mean, there's a lot of 15-year-olds who are mature for their age, for instance. So maybe 15, 14 would be a more reasonable limit before you're actually putting someone in handcuffs and in a cell.
So you talk about as the 20th century progressed, virginity was no longer a prerequisite for marriage. And then you say should have become obsolete because the original
intent of protecting virginity was pretty much obsolete, though female hypergamy is always going to be an issue if you're a lower status male. Women like to marry up, and generally as much upwards as they can. I mean, a lot of the PUA sphere blogs, they talk about this a lot. You see in nature, it's typically 10-20% of men who are considered valuable and desirable, while the rest are what the PUAs like to call betas.
And how would you describe those different men?
Describe those different men?
And social characteristics.
Well, I think social dominance is a big one, one's personality, but in a mass society, I mean, cash, let's face it, is your main stand-in for male value. So that if you have this social recognition in terms of cash, you have a huge edge over other males. And if you're in the top, say, 10% of income earners, you're pretty much hot property, where if you're poor, not so much.
So you say that females have been able to benefit more from cooperation while males have to spend more of their energy on competition, and the natural result of this zero-sum situation is which one man can fertilize countless women.
Yes, because women are the bottleneck on the rate of human reproduction. I mean, if you lose even one woman, a society's ability to create offspring has been compromised, where most of the male population can be lost, and the society can go on as normal.
And then you say how these laws they've distorted the biological game more strongly in favor of women, and you kind of touched on that before.
Yes, because of the female sexual value is already very high because men have to compete. But when some of the younger competitors, like below age of 18, are kept off of that market, they are subsidized even higher to where more men are having trouble being valuable enough on the market to secure a mate. And you start seeing more of a resemblance to a Stone Age type of society, where this type of social structure where only a few alphas father children.